everybody. My name is Yuli Cheripalli. I'm the host today to this masterclass. And we also have Lavinia, Dr. Lavinia Herbe. Please take over, Lavinia.
Hello, everybody. So excited to be here. I'm going to introduce myself briefly, and then I'll introduce Bahar Sedarati, our speaker for tonight. So I'm an internal medicine physician. I have an MBA from Berkeley. I work at a hospital in East Bay, California, and I'm really excited to work with InnovatorMD, with Yuli, and be part of this exciting enterprise of getting startups in healthcare, in particular AI in medicine. And here we are tonight. We have Dr. Bahar Sedarati. She is a physician, certified physician executive leading the Pacific market on Humana, and her passion is leadership development and bringing emotions and emotional intelligence to the organizational leadership and C-suite. She has a lot of experience in private practice, and she has assumed multiple leadership roles in not only in private practice, but medium and large health systems. She works with Medicare, Medicaid, commercial managed care, and value-based care and on-demand care spaces. She has built intelligent algorithms and innovative tools dealing with educational content for fellow physicians, and augmenting the efficiency of the revenue cycle through more precise clinical documentation and utilization management. So she also contributes to subject matter to Medicare risk adjustment, clinical documentation, integrity, as well as utilization management and review precision. But tonight she's going to talk to us about the emotional intelligence at the C-suite level. Bahar?
Thank you. Well, hello everyone, and good Thursday night. Calling you all from California, Southern California, Orange County. Give me a sec so I can present my screen, and someone could kindly confirm you all see it so we can get started.
Yes.
That's it. Okay, awesome. All right, so tonight what we're going to talk is leadership with human intelligence. What I mean by human intelligence is cultivating our emotional intelligence and building psychological safety, and be present and be the advocate of psychological safety. I'll tell you what I mean by that. All right. So take a moment, grab a piece of paper. If you don't feel like sharing, if you feel like sharing, you can go ahead and do that. Scale of 1 to 10, and I'm going to open the chat box so I can hopefully see some of it. How would you score your own emotional intelligence in your own mind? Any number is acceptable. I've done this over 50 times. Believe me, I know what kind of answers they may pop up. So be comfortable, be present. If you feel comfortable and present and confident, put it in the chat, or just write it on a piece of paper for yourself. We're going to explore, and then perhaps we're all going to reflect on the answers that we have provided at the beginning after going through this course. Numbers are coming. We are at an inflection point, especially after what happened with COVID. And when we face an inflection point, if we adopt it, we can go to an exponential growth. And if we don't, it would be a catastrophic decline. And to me, it is my sincere belief that today that inflection point is innovation and evolution. As you look across the organizations from the startup to Fortune 50 or Fortune 10, you'll see they are all thriving and they are all after innovation, change, and growth. But if you look at it, we also need to create that innovation and evolution on a human level. The leadership for tomorrow cannot be the leadership that they've had before. It needs to evolve. And that evolution, in my opinion, is deploying the emotional intelligence or the human intelligence. Let's humanize the leadership. I am Bahar Sedarati, a certified physician executive, a board certified internist. Given the deep desire that I've had, I've also got certified in psychological safety and organizational psychology, as well as took a course in emotional intelligence and empathy. What you will hear today are based on what I've learned and a lot of great thought leaders and writers that I have been reading and studying for the last several years. I haven't done any research on my own, but I'm a big follower of people like Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, Amy Edmondson. She wrote Fearless Organization, which is all about psychological safety. Timothy Clark, he wrote a book about psychological safety. And I think, excuse me, a lot of us, we know Brené. So what you will hear is my composure. Think of me as a composer, composing of, let's say, a symphony of many instruments that I have been soaking up for the past several years. These are the top writers and resources, and I'll be happy to share my slides so you can go ahead and take a look. So what is emotional intelligence? How is the emotional intelligence different from your IQ? Intellectual quotient versus your emotional quotient. People tell me I don't have any. Well, I have news for you. We all have it. But look, your IQ is a rigid scale. The IQ that you're born with, once your brain is fully developed, it's not going to change. When we all leave this world, even if you don't have any brain injury or dementia, the IQ is going to be the same IQ when the brain was fully developed. You will be gaining growth, you will learn new skills, you have more wisdom, but your IQ is not going to change. What you will grow is your emotional intelligence. So don't tell me you don't have it. We all have it. How much we have it, it goes back for upbringing and our childhood experiences, what we have seen and what we have modeled. So some of us, we're blessed with more, some less. But the good news is we all can cultivate it and grow it, and there is no limit. It's very expandable and stretchable, and that's what we call in neuroscience neuroplasticity. You can actually expand this skill. As you see, it can add more layers to it. Emotional intelligence is the skill and the art of reflecting before reacting. We get the signal, naturally we're going to react. But when you are able to reflect, regulate, and then react, that's when you're deploying your emotional intelligence. We have two main brains, your emotional primal brain, and then you have a more developed intellectual brain. Your emotional brain is the limbic system. It's a layer right below your cortex. We have two amygdalae that they are controlling the emotions. They are designed to help you survive. Flight, fight, freeze. With your intellectual brain, is a more advanced brain, has a critical thinking. And that's where you can advance and you can expand and you can regulate. So as we are being exposed to any stimuli, the natural reaction is to protect ourselves. So that's your survival. It goes to your emotional brain. But if you learn how to move this signal and process it in your prefrontal cortex, and then deploy your answer, your reaction, that's what it's called, emotional intelligence. And as you do this, you move the signal frequently, you will actually develop a new neural pathway. And science has proven that we can develop these new neural pathways. And that's what we call neuroplasticity. Your emotional brain is to help you survive. Your intellectual brain is to help you thrive. Your emotional brain is your default operating system. Do you want to stay with your default operating system? Or do you want to upgrade? The choice is yours. Daniel Goleman, 25 years ago, wrote the book, Emotional Intelligence, and he divided the emotional intelligence in two main domains, self-mastery and social mastery. The self-mastery is about self-awareness. What is your emotional self-awareness? How do you understand, feel, and you're present with your emotion? How am I feeling? What is this feeling that I have right now after, hanging up on that phone, or I saw this person, or someone said something to me? What is this feeling? Can I recognize it? Can I pinpoint it? Can I label it? Can I get it? It's your emotional self-awareness. When you understand yourself and you can fully and authentically present yourself. And that gives you the power of authenticity, which right now we need leaders like that. And then you have self-regulation, which is your emotional self-regulation. The move from your emotional brain to your intellectual brain, it gives you the power of being more adaptable, because now you regulate and you're not just gonna go with your primal survival method. You adapt, you know what to do in what circumstance. And ironically, that's where you build your optimism and your positive outlook, because perhaps you see some control and power in yourself. And then we have the social awareness, empathy, understand others, their feelings, feel their feelings, and be concerned and thoughtful about their feelings, ability to see their perspective. But that's not just limited to people. If you want to be a great influential leader and survive and thrive in an organization and lead a global company, or build a startup and scale, you need to have organizational awareness, not only in your organization, but all the organizations that you're going to be related and you're going to be partnering or networking. So that gives you a lot of wisdom and power to have that social awareness. And lastly, the relationship regulation. It was called social regulation, but then he renamed it to relationship regulation, which in fact is giving you that power of understanding the environment and then regulate your behavior and how you're going to build the relationships. You're going to be influential. You can build a trust, team building, conflict management, negotiation skills, inspirational and motivational. And this is so important. I just had a conversation with a colleague today, and she's great. She's a great performer, but she feels defeated just because the direct report is failing just to give a prep to her. We all say she is amazing, but that's the relationship regulation. That's the emotional intelligence, to know, to observe and know what to say. So you can keep people inspired. You can keep people motivated. You can bring the team together to create a purpose and lead them. Our challenge today is not only getting the people on the bus, it's to keep them on the bus. What is the leadership for tomorrow? Purpose, performance, partnership. Traditionally, we've been always thinking about performance, the metrics, KPIs, OKRs, you name it. But that's not sustainable. We need purpose. We need to create a purpose behind the performance. That's how you can sustain it. And because we want to be in a global world and an enterprise level, you need to learn how to be a partner with your vendors in our organization, patients, members, physicians. You need to learn how to build the partnership with the community. So think of it as an ecosystem mindset. But if you don't have the capacity to deploy that emotional intelligence, you're not going to be able to do that. So it's not only performance, it's performance, purpose, and partnership. Ask me, Bahar, what you do. And I can say, I'm just reviewing some notes. There's no purpose. You didn't hear any purpose. But what if I tell you, I am reviewing some data to come up with a solution to decrease the cost and improve and advance the outcome of my patients? Well, that's different. There's a purpose behind it. As a leader, it is your job. It is your responsibility to create that common purpose for your team. You do not just want to create results for now. You want to create value that is sustainable. And that's only possible with the purpose and the partnership along with the performance. So with that in mind, I created COPE. COPE is my emotional or human intelligence platform. It's based on what I have been hearing myself saying when I'm getting engaged and like worked up and so excited and talking about my purpose and my thought, and I keep hearing that I'm repeating this. It's like all the time I'm talking about courage, optimism, patience, and empathy. And that's COPE. What is courage? Being vulnerable, bringing your true self despite the limitations, the armors, the fears. We all are afraid of failing. We are all afraid of not being enough. We are all afraid of imperfections. We're all afraid of so many things that we carry, and it is limiting. When you have courage, you can show up fully and authentically, and you can bring yourself. You're going to ask me, why do I need to do that? Because if you are a leader, people are looking at you. And as you show up as a human, as a whole, with a lot of other things that makes you as a human. So you're not just hiding behind that perfection armor, and you are showing your vulnerabilities. It makes people to relate and believe you. And they feel comfortable and safe, and they trust you to make themselves vulnerable. Second, we saw uncertainty. It's always there. We cannot escape it. COVID showed us. If you don't have the courage, how you can be mitigating the uncertainty and ambiguities? How can you be adaptable to change? That's what you need the courage for. To be agile, to be innovative, and to be accountable. Because if you don't have courage, you're not going to say, I failed, or I'm not going to deliver, or help me. This is all accountability. That's why we need the courage. Leaders of tomorrow not only know that there is uncertainty, they anticipate the uncertainty, but they also inspire the change. So change is always there. Change and uncertainty go hand in hand, right? So not only you are able to face it, you know it's coming, anticipate, and also you inspire it. We keep saying we need change, creativity, and innovation in organization, but how is it possible without vulnerability? How can I innovate, try something, create something, paint something, build something without a failure, without the fear that this may actually fail? How can I grow? How can I change myself if I have that fear, if I'm going to be hiding behind that armor? So that's why you need to cultivate the vulnerability. If you're an organization and you're aiming to have that change, innovation, and creativity in your organization, you need to cultivate the vulnerability, and it starts from you, the person who holds the position of power, because everybody is looking at you. Next is optimism. Optimism is believing in the possibilities. The future is bright. There are unlimited possibilities. It's removing that scarcity mindset. It's believing in an abundance mindset, that there are opportunities. You just need to have the vision to open your eyes and open those closed doors in front of you. That helps you to be inclusive because you have optimism. You have an open eye, you have an open vision, you have an open heart, and you have an open mind. Optimism brings generosity. And if you want to build trust, you need to have the generosity. You believe in the goodness of people, so you give before you take. What we suffer now, it's really that scarcity mindset that if I don't get this, it's going to be the end of the world. I will never get it. If I don't get this job, then I'm going to be like jobless for the rest of my life, or I'm going to fail, I'm not good enough. There's so many opportunities that are out there, and that scarcity mindset, not deploying all of your potentials, not using and energizing yourself, it's not going to get you anywhere. But if you think about it, believing in opportunities is deep down believing in your own capabilities. So optimism, in my opinion, is very much related to confidence. The stories we tell ourselves to protect ourselves from not coming across a failure. Oh, that was unlimited. I did it. It wasn't for me. No, this one was not for you. There are other things that are for you. You want to adopt the growth mindset, you need the optimism. Patience. This is the one that I get the most challenge, because people are coming and telling me, what do you mean by patience? So like, my direct report did not do the job properly. Do I need to be patient and not make them accountable? No. Patience is trusting the hard process. Trusting the hard process because you know going through it, you evolve, you gain wisdom, and you actually can become a better version of yourself. Trusting the hard process. It's a magical superpower that if leaders have, and all of you are leaders in your personal or your professional life. If you cannot relate to what I say, think about your family, think about your significant other, think about your children, think about your parents. Trusting the hard process, it's helping you to adapt to those hardships. If you really believe that you're going to gain, you're going to have a lesson, you're going to have an evolution and a wisdom from it, you will trust the hard process. That's how you can lead an organizational change. That's how you can create an exponential growth, because it takes time. You have to put all those building blocks, and it will take time. So it's trusting the hard process, believe and celebrate the progress, we trust the hardship. Progress, we celebrate very little small milestones because we have a higher purpose. You've got to have something to stick to your path. If my purpose is growth, If my purpose is evolution, if my purpose is to learn something, if my purpose is to be challenged and learn from it, if my purpose is to build something, then I'm going to trust the hard process. So it's about the progress, the process, and the purpose. And then the growth mindset, it's not possible if you don't have the courage to try and remove the fear of failure. If you don't have the optimism to believe that it's possible and you're able, and if you don't have the patience to try again and trust the hard process. So if you don't have courage, optimism, and patience, you cannot cultivate the growth mindset. We need it. These are the ingredients for growth mindset. And last, we have empathy. Feeling your feelings. Understanding your thought. Understanding your perspective. That's when I'm empathic. When I'm able to feel what you feel. And I can think about what you feel, and I will be concerned about what you think and you feel. That goes to feeling, your thought, and your perspective. And if you don't have that capacity, how can you lead? How can you build trust? How can you inspire? How can you manage conflicts? Right? So it is extremely important to be present and understand the empathy. And I say empathy over sympathy because sympathy is just, oh, I'm sorry. That's not enough. I feel how you feel. You don't need to always give advice or solution. You just need to understand where the other person is coming from. Repeat after me. I do not need to always have a solution. I just need to hear the other person. That's what gives the most satisfaction to your direct report, to your colleagues, to the people that you work with. In any setting that you are, like I said, you cannot imagine it in your work. Think about your spouse, your significant other, your children. It will resonate with you. And that's how you can build a belonging culture, because how can I make you feel you belong if I cannot feel and understand your feeling and your perspective? And that is how we move, and I will introduce you to psychological safety. What we really need now in building growth, amazing, sustainable organizations. Psychological safety is cultivating the culture of belonging. It's a combination of diversity and inclusion. Diversity is like you open the seat, you give the seat to the people that are like different people at the table. That's just diversity. You haven't really done anything until you include those unique, different voices that are at the table. And that's how you can build a belonging culture. We can no longer survive with a fit culture. Fit is like you play harmonica, I play harmonica, everybody is playing harmonica. Such a monotone, boring tone. But belonging, you keep your own unique thought. Your uniqueness is there. My uniqueness is here. We come together, we belong, and we are playing our own instrument, but we create a harmonious symphony. That's the best example that I can come up with. Let's build a symphony. Psychological danger, which we unfortunately see a lot, is fear of admitting mistakes. I'll do that too. I am not always courageous, depending where I am. If it's not a psychologically safe place, I'm not going to speak up. It's not the best thing, but if I'm not safe, I won't. We blame it on others. We'll find a way. Look at your relationship. How many times you blame something that was totally unrelated on something else? And we don't share our views because we feel that, oh, maybe I'm going to sound stupid. Maybe they think that I am just totally, not in touch. Maybe I cannot articulate it really well. Maybe I have an accent. I'm going to feel separated, marginalized, shamed, guilted. So you don't share your views. But if you have a psychologically safe environment, you can just simply say, apologize, I made a mistake. No need to blame it on anybody else. You take the ownership, you're accountable, and you learn from the mistakes. What a great opportunity. The leaders should create that for us. It is the responsibility of the leader to create a psychologically safe environment so people can do that. They share their ideas, and imagine what can happen. The magic will happen when people are sharing their ideas. What a lost opportunity if we don't share our ideas. Think about it. So how do we build it? How can I build a psychologically safe organization, environment, home, relationship, team? It starts from being vulnerable, being transparent, being empathic, being curious. How? Instead of advising and becoming that advice monster, be curious, observe, see what's happening. And if you see someone is becoming vulnerable or they show their vulnerability, reward them, admire them, so they will be encouraged. Be empathic toward them. Give them a feeling that it's okay to be themselves. And be as transparent as possible. Show up as your real self. Because the foundation of a psychological safety is the person who holds the position of power. It comes and always starts from the person who holds the position of power. To cultivate vulnerability. If I come and I'm your boss and I show you that, no, I am human. I had a bad night. I had a fight. I had a headache. I have zero tolerance for heat. I have zero tolerance for cold. It's little, but it just shows you I'm human. It makes me believable. It makes me relatable. If I come and tell you I made a mistake, I dropped the ball. Sorry that I didn't show up. Sorry that I promised you something and I didn't deliver. Bosses all the time are promising and they are not delivering, and then they blame it on so many other things. There is a reason that things are not getting delivered. That's separate. But if you said something and you could not deliver it for any reason, just own it. People want to see that you're able to own it. You're able to show yourself. You're able to share your vulnerabilities, to share a personal parameter of yourself, of your life. And when you do that, your job is not done. You set the ground. Now, I am reporting to you and I see, makes him or her very interesting. It gives me the courage to share some of my vulnerabilities, to feel safe, because you did it and I'm learning from you. And when I do that, it is again your job to reward it. So I don't feel I'm marginalized, I'm stupid. What a stupid thing that I did. Why did I even share that? I should have kept my mouth shut. If you get that feeling after speaking up, shame on the people that they hold the position of power, that they cannot create a psychologically safe environment for you. Model the vulnerability and reward the vulnerability. And that's perhaps one of the main questions that I get. How do we do that? Show your human side. Show your human side. Share stories. Be accountable and show up authentically. So when we talk about psychological safety, we really deploy that empathy And we also deploy that courage. We give people permission and respect. Permission to deploy courage. You can talk, be courageous, and respect, feel them, understand them, empathy. Psychological safety is a combination of respect and permission. And you need to do them both and in the most balanced way. You cannot just do one of it. More in psychological safety, that it can be another masterclass. But I'm going to walk you through briefly on the 4 stages of psychological safety. Stage 1, inclusion. I feel I'm just simply included. I can be myself. I feel I'm not marginalized. I belong. I can be me. That's just simply inclusion safety. If I feel safe enough to bring myself as who I am, then the next one is a learner safety. Then my courage is building up and I'm thinking, maybe now I can actually ask a question because I was accepted. Maybe my questions are not going to marginalize me. So I start being curious and ask questions. And I feel comfortable, as dumb, as stupid that they may sound, but I still do it because I feel safe and I want to show up as who I am. And when that happens, we move to the next stage, which is now the contribution safety. You felt included, you are curious to learn, and now you are courageous enough to actually share your views and ideas. And then ultimately, we get to the challenging safety or challenger safety, that you feel comfortable to question the status quo, to challenge the status quo. And that's when the magic happens. Because when you do that, that's where innovation comes. That's where the change comes. That's where the exponential growth comes. But you cannot just go straight to that. You need to build it. You make people included. You reward them for their curiosity. You reward them for their contribution. And then you let them be themselves with their bright ideas and challenge the status quo many times. And finally, with those challenging and frictions and brainstormings, new ideas will blossom. And that's why psychological safety is really moving from inclusion, including people, the act of empathy, all the way to build a courageous and a safe culture that they can challenge the status quo. And that's innovation. From inclusion to innovation. Inclusion with empathy, where the social frictions are very low. We accept each other. And then the courage and innovation, because now our intellectual frictions are high. We challenge each other. We are bright, we brainstorm, and we innovate. To remind everyone, again, to build a belonging culture, we need to really have the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion. Diversity is just a number. Equity is the access, you provide equal access, and it's not until you create that common purpose, you let them be who they are, to express their unique self while they are connected with the common purpose, and that is inclusion, and that's how we will create a belonging culture. So why do you want to have this in your organization? Why this is important? Why I am advocating for it? Because it is with the humanized leadership that we can go to that exponential growth. That's how we can maximize the engagement and the revenue. When you are feeling safe, when your leaders are present and they understand you, you're engaged, the productivity goes higher. It is a set of unparalleled leadership skills that you can leave as a legacy for your organization and build the next pipeline of leaders. because the leadership for tomorrow is an emotionally and a human intelligent leadership. So again, what do we create is just not the result for now. It's a value that is sustainable and it's going to outlast us. Not the result for now, the value for future. And then the cost of capital, when people are feeling psychologically safe, when they feel included, when they feel they belong, they're not going to leave your company. Your retention, the talent retention, which is a huge cost. And not that, also the cost of legal ramifications. People are leaving their companies most of the time because they are not seen or recognized and their talent is not being blossomed. People hardly really leave just based on pay. Majority of people are leaving because they don't feel included. And acceleration. You want growth, you want change, you want innovation, you need to create a psychologically safe environment because we saw how we can move from inclusion to innovation. Because psychological safety feeds agile. And to be agile, you need to feel it is safe to be agile. We can talk, we can brainstorm, we can learn, and we can innovate. So, what is an intelligent and an impactful leadership? It is not just your domain skills. It's your domain skills and it's your human skill. And believe me, has a profound exponential effect. This is what I tell myself every day. Show up and embrace your imperfections to cultivate your uniqueness. As a recovering perfectionist, and I'm saying recovering because it's not recovered yet, it is my mission to show up, to be as vulnerable as I can, to be as transparent as I can, and embrace the uniqueness that I have because every day I learn from it. And a lot of days I fail in showing up, at least failing showing up completely, but I try. And it has been a huge growth. And that's why I wanted to share that with you all tonight. Now, how would you feel and how would you score your organization being psychologically safe? Now that you know what psychological safety is. You want to learn more? You want me to come to your organization? I can do a class for your entire team like I did, or I can also provide you with a workshop. Here are my contacts. I'm pretty available on LinkedIn, semi-available on Instagram, a quarter available on Twitter, email, I always check. Please reach out. Yuli has my contact. It was a tremendous pleasure to share the night with you. We have about 17 minutes. So come up to you, bring it on. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much, Bahar. This has been a pleasure to have you talk about this. Each time I hear, I learn something new, and I always feel that, oh, I didn't get that point last time I heard you. So it's always a growing and learning experience.
It is for me too. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see everyone.
Sure. One of the questions, by the way, audience, please enter your questions into the chat. Or actually, if you want to, you can raise your hand and we can have you speak, switch on your video and so that you can ask the questions. So one of the questions I always had was that if a leader feels vulnerable and if a leader feels open to transparent enough to have criticism of their leadership, of their style, wouldn't that be a hurdle for them to grow into whatever role they're looking at for the next time? So that's the first part of the question. Can you give us, second question is, Can you give us some examples of leaders that you know of that are out in the public domain that exemplify what you're talking about?
So let me understand the first part. If a leader shows up vulnerable, you think that would be a hurdle for their growth and their career advancement, right? Why?
People might see them as weak. People might see them as deficient.
Mm-hmm.
People might see them as, not capable.
Okay. That is a real challenge that we're facing. And it is my opinion, with my observation, that the paradigm is definitely changing. And a lot of it is our own self-belief. I live tonight. What memory I left with you all? Did I leave a memory of being someone weak? Did I leave a memory of someone brave? We think vulnerability is a weakness. Vulnerability is the ultimate practice of courage. And whoever is courageous is brave. And I do not know any dictionary that puts bravery and weakness equal. So there is a lot of reframing of the mindset, which we all carry from our childhood, from all old lessons, from what society has dictated, what the marketing and the media is dictating to us, but that's not true. The person who exemplifies a true, vulnerable, brave person for me is Simon Sinek and Brené Brown. I pretty much learned a lot of my learnings from these two people. To me, they are the example of bravery. There is another great author, Bill George. He talks about authenticity all the time. And that's nothing just by showing up and being vulnerable. Go back to your own memories. Forget about what people think. Go back to your own memories. Who resonates the most with you? Who did you learn the most valuable lesson from? Who you want to be? Be the leader that you never had. Don't be the leader that you thought you're disconnected with. Those that they have made an imprint, they have shaped us, they have opened our eyes and minds. Those are the people that we could relate and we could feel they are reliable because they were believable. And nobody is believable if they don't show up as a whole human being. Did I answer your question?
Great. Thank you. Okay, yes. Dan Eisenman. Dan, do you want to come on the video and ask the question? You have a great question.
Yeah, thank you. First off, I really have enjoyed hearing your perspective on this. I'm an executive coach working with physicians, healthcare leaders at a variety of levels. But one of the questions I have for you is where do you see, there's a journey that organizations go on to try to get to this place of creating psychological safety and and growing emotional intelligence within their organization, and a lot of them get stuck in certain places. And where, when it comes to creating the psychological safety within the organization, I'm curious, where do you see organizations getting stuck in that journey to where they have to really try to push beyond something?
In my opinion, they never start.
Okay, well, there you go, the front door.
Tell me an organization that is trying to build a psychologically safe culture and the leaders are not vulnerable or vulnerable. You look at the leaders. The person that holds a position of power is the person who is going to plant the seed of a psychological safety. And if you have an organization in mind that you think they are building a psychological safe culture, yet their leaders are not vulnerable, that's a fake psychological safety. The magic happens when you are vulnerable.
Yeah. I remember in my early days seeing a senior vice president call an assembly of 1,100 employees in this big atrium. And he brought one of his middle managers on stage with him. And he said, "I've gathered you all here today to tell you that I made a grave strategic error in decision making, and this man saved us."
Great.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
He said this, he had the courage to tell me the night before we launched that this was the wrong thing to do for our organization. We've invested $1.2 million in this process. And for him to come and tell me that this, by the way, this ends him and he and his teams, their work here. He says he just put himself out of a job. I will tell you all, based on what I want for us and for this organization, he will want for nothing until he retires.
So let me pose a question to you. What kind of memory that left you with?
Yeah, I remember every single moment of it. And it was like 12, 13 years ago.
There is no act more braver than being vulnerable and share your human side with people. In her book, Indra Nooyi writes that as she goes to Pixar, I believe, the Pixar CEO right front says that when they were building the company or the campus, that whole building was a total mistake. Be vulnerable, you're human, that can happen. It gives courage to me as I'm looking up to you that I can make mistakes and yet become a Pixar CEO.
Great.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. Vijay Simha. Vijay Simha, can you come on the video, ask the question? If not, I will ask, how does one prevent burnout in a very passionately engaged team? So passionate engagement, does that cause burnout? And how does one prevent?
Trouble thinking that any passion will go with burnout. So is there really a passion? Because passion is purpose. And if you have purpose, you won't be burned out because you are aligned with your values. Right? If the passion is making a name for yourself, that's not passion. Passion is based on, it's deeply rooted in your purpose and it's aligned with your values. Maybe we haven't really pinpointed our core values. So we need to maybe take a deeper look, reflect and see what our core values are. Maybe we are stuck in place that we think we are passionate and we think this is our value, but that's really not our value. Find your why, as Simon Sinek says. I think that would be a lot more telling. I haven't done a research myself, but from my very little experience, I doubt that someone who is deeply working based on purpose and their core values, they will feel burnout.
Good, good answer. Lavinia, you had a comment. Do you want to share with us?
I have a bunch of comments. I think.
Please do share.
So just to add to what you were just saying, I think the way I see the question was more like, okay, you're passionate and you put a lot of time and energy into it. I think as a leader, probably you can pace people and say, okay, we're gonna build a team, we're gonna spend time together, and then you have to pace yourself. I appreciate you putting all your life on this problem, but okay, you have to sleep, you have to, enjoy the work. You can, kill yourself in the next 1 year and then there's nothing left. So I think maybe that was the burnout part. Okay. I'm not sure if that's what they were referring. That's how I interpreted the question. So my question, so first of all, I think that everything you say, it's spot on. And in my opinion, the human capital is the next resource to be developed. There's not much else in efficiency in a lot of things. It's just, okay, can that person give 100% or 110%? If they're passionate about it, probably they can give a little bit more. And then I think a lot of companies talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. And I think a lot of people try to emphasize diversity, but people don't feel included. So I think that's a little thing that needs to come from the top. It's really hard to start it from, grassroots. As an employee, it's hard to make your leader be vulnerable unless you already starts that culture. So do you have any suggestions how to get there?
That's an interesting question that I get quite a lot, that if my leader is not making themselves vulnerable, how can I become vulnerable, or what can I do to contribute to the psychologically safe culture? I first make a comment about burnout. I see where you're coming from. So what I see burnout, it's not just in one snippet of a career or a life. I see things in a more big picture. You may be burned out a week or a month or a year, or just a small piece of your career. But what really gets you going and what is sustainable is based on your purpose and based on your values. That burnout that you brought up, which is a great example, I think it has to do a lot with the time management and the lack of a good leadership and the lack of delegation and responsibility distribution, or creating a great role model. A lot of organizations are rewarding employees based on how much they are burning themselves. They get rewarded for the emails that they respond after hours, or their expectation is that if you're on a PTO, I'm still going to text you and ask you a question, and they feel so amazing about doing that. Well, if my leader does it, then probably I have to do it too, because I feel like I'm going to be deficient and I'm not going to be enough. But if my leader sets an example that when you're on a PTO, you're off, embrace it, enjoy it, then I feel empowered that I can do that. So that has to do a lot with the leader. But then going back to your second question, although the organizations are built based on the hierarchy, my hope is that we can create more of a flat organization. And don't underestimate your power. I have leaders, many, but I have a voice and I have a power. So if it's not trickling from up to me, I will push it to them by modeling, because I have the power. I may not have a power in an organization system, but I have that voice and influence. So I use it by modeling. It is our responsibility. If we believe that that's what we want, regardless of what others do, to model it without jeopardizing our career. So you have to be very cautious how you mitigate and find the place that you can do that. And I feel there is always a place for it. It may not be in this mini structure, it may be in another structure. That's what I have done. And somewhat successful, somewhat struggling. I keep going. Any other last questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
So one of the things I feel that happens with people like me, who's very passionate about what I work on, I've been told by other founders that you need to learn to celebrate your success, which gives you a break. And I think every time I do that, it gives me a little mental settle down time. And I've tried to use that same technique with my team. And I think it helps a lot, where we finish a milestone and we take a day break and we say, let's just celebrate this.
It emphasizes the purpose, right?
Yes. And it doesn't demotivate anybody. It kind of makes people feel acknowledged, accomplished, And at the same time, it gives a little gap to that speed that everybody was going at.
That's a great thing to do. People feel recognized and acknowledged. We all need to be seen, as much as we pretend that we are very strong, unbreakable. We all need to be seen, valued, and heard. That's why we need people that are willing to do that for us. Can I ask to get a copy of the chat so I can read through all the comments and make sure that I have answered everything? And if anything was not answered, please email me, reach out to me on social media. And I thank you so much for the privilege to share the night with you all. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. This was great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye.